All right, well, welcome back to another episode of The Ripple Effect. I almost say river every time, and then I say ripple. It throws me off. We have a very special guest today. You may know him, 10-time Grammy Award-winning artist.
I receive it, Lord.
Lebron.
I receive it.
Arnwine, who not only does worship and runs our worship department here, but really I would say there's not an area of your life that's not music.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of spend some time talking. We try to explore maybe some of the origins, backgrounds, histories, and understanding of the people who we have here doing life with us here. And so I'd love to start with your background as a church kid and kind of how you've been able to maintain being in worship this long.
The Lord. First, thank you, man, for letting me be on the podcast. I feel special. I feel like I'm a part of the family now. You know what I mean? And we kind of got the same theme going. We got khaki and green, and you know, we in the, you know, one of our sponsors, Tyson Construction. You know?
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, been a church kid my whole life. Growing up in church, I don't know life without it. And just as much as church has been a part of my life, music and worship has been a part of my life too. My dad's side of the family is where all like the music and instruments and singing comes from. My mom's side is where all like the educators and the evangelists and teachers, and you know, so I kind of grew up dead center of all of it, where you know education was important, but also serving in the Lord's house was very important too. And from a young age, I started playing. You know, my dad, they traveled with a gospel quartet group, and so I was just, you know, so captivated by that sound and wanted to be a part of all of that all the time. And when I was 3 years old, started to play drums. I feel like that's all of us, you know. You just got to find your way, you know what I mean? Started playing drums, and then all my cousins and my brother, everybody behind me, all started playing drums too. So I said, you know what, I got to find me something. I got to find something else to make some room.
Everybody can't play drums.
Right, everybody can. So then my dad was the bass player, and so then my brother started to play bass. So my dad moved to guitar. I started playing piano when I was about 7, and by the time, you know, 10 years old or so, you know, I was the keyboard player in church. My brother was the bass player. My cousin was the drummer. So we was 10, 8, and 7, you know, the church band, you know. But those times, though, were so important for our growth. You know, I grew up, too, a church plant, almost similar to the river. We were meeting in the downstairs basement of my parents' home at first. You know, they were church planters, and so I'm a PK, if you didn't know. And then started with a handful. Then we went to a hotel ballroom lobby, and back then it was, we're blessed now, we walk into a space where we have cushioned chairs and air conditioning and heat in the wintertime and all the sound systems that work.
People don't know tent life.
It was set up, tear down every week, you know what I mean? So it taught like what it meant to serve, you know what I mean, as a responsibility in the vineyard of being a servant and servanthood to the Father. And that's kind of how like the journey began, and fell in love with it, had somewhere to serve, and music just always been a part of my life.
Yeah, and although you're here, like you actually, if you want to talk a little bit about it, you do a ton, not just here at the river, but in music in general, including Hallmark Christmas cruises. So, but other than that, what else do you got going on?
Oh my goodness!
And everybody right now thinks that Noah's kidding, but he's not.
I'm not kidding. He does the Hallmark Christmas cruise. He's the DJ for it.
Somewhat like that. Yeah. So, oh my goodness. I went to Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, is where I went to school. I started out as a music major. That shifted quickly to digital media. I was like, I'm not about to be sitting in this practice room all day. But I mean, a lot of my relationships and people I got to meet, you know, came from there, and people went on to do great things. And so the opportunities to be able to travel and do music for, you know, artists and write for labels and all these kinds of things came, and it's just been a privilege. You know, a lot of it, yes, you have to have a skill and talent, but it's also right place, right time, and then the Lord has to also breathe on it for those opportunities and to give the wisdom enough to be able to discern what opportunities are for me and what opportunities are not. But I've been very blessed. He mentioned the Hallmark cruise. That's only been a couple of years, but yes, I do cruises, write and record for major labels, and travel and tour the world with artists, and you know, really great things. I've been very blessed.
That's not as cool as the Hallmark cruise part, though.
Hallmark is fun. Listen, you're on the boat in the middle of the
Christmas season,
Bahamas, Mexico.
It's
real nice.
You know, you've obviously been not only on staff at multiple churches, you've been in probably over 1,000 churches, played at least once. And people don't know this. We've traveled and played music together.
We have.
As far as from a worship perspective, what do you, and I know success can be a hard word in the church, but what do you feel like makes worship like successful, whether that's in a single service or as a culture inside of a church?
Yeah, I see it twofold. From the ministry standpoint, the pastoral side, the Lord gave me a pastoral heart from a young age, seeing my parents serve and know what it means. Church isn't just about what we do, but it's about people. Mm-hmm. It's how we love people, how we serve people, the body of Christ. And from a pastoral standpoint, musically, to be able to see, because somebody had to do it for me, to see a gift and potential in somebody, to call it out, to speak life into it, to breathe on it, and to cultivate and to create space and room for people to grow and develop. Mm-hmm. For me, it was a different case because I was hungry and I wanted it. So people recognize hunger. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So in churches, you can see people who want to do it and want to go after it. So you try to work and say, how can I pour into this person or the department? So from that end of it, on the spiritual side, on the skill side, for me growing up, I've been in mega churches, and it's hard in those type of scenarios to have opportunities for young people to serve and to learn and to grow, just because of the nature of it. But growing up in a small country church, we was like, get up there and you play, and figure it out. But
trial by fire.
And it was serious back then. It was serious. And if you were at a guest church and you were playing, you didn't know it.
No.
You got to get up.
You got to.
You know what I mean? Because now you're stopping the flow of what's happening.
You got to, be ready to play at a moment's notice.
So it made you practice, and I think that's the art of it too, to teach. Like, hey, it is a discipline. You know what I mean? We talk about one of my favorite people in the Bible, and is King David. For obvious reasons, but he was a minstrel. One of my favorite passages is in 1 Samuel. Whenever King Saul was being troubled by the evil spirit, he called for a minstrel, somebody who was skilled, and sharp and cunning, and a skillful player. And so whenever his name got called, David didn't have to go to rehearse for 5 days and work his instrument out. He was prepared because he had been sitting with his instrument and in his craft for so much time. So when he got to the king's presence, he could just do what he's always done. Yeah. So that's a big key too. You got to be disciplined and but speak life into people that you see potential and gifts in, and to try to cultivate that.
That's wisdom, Lord.
I need the wisdom,
Lord. The wisdom, Lord. This may be controversial, but let me ask you this. What, as a worship leader, what are you looking for and hoping for out of a congregation when you're doing worship? Like, what are you hoping they do, receive, get, feel? Like, what are you wanting out of them coming back into the stage?
That is a great question. Worship is a heart posture. In my mind, it's a posture of our heart. We could all have different backgrounds. We came from different places. I came from a heavy gospel background. Some people might come from Southern gospel. Some people might come from more traditional. Whatever that looks like. But at the end of the day, when we get to heaven, we're going to be singing a song that's been sung for ages. Holy, holy, holy. And we're never going to get tired. We're going to be around the throne singing holy, holy, holy. And so it's a posture of the heart, like, Lord, what can I bring to the table, to your feet? Not what can I get out of? Sometimes when we come to worship, we're worshiping for what we can gain, but it's a sacrifice. Yeah. You know what I mean? What we can give and offer our Savior, because he's worthy of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So this the heart posture of what can I bring in worship. I want to bring my own praise, bring my own worship. And there's times where we don't feel like it. We don't always feel like going to work. We don't feel like cooking dinner. We don't feel like going to the grocery store. We don't feel like working out. I'm trying to be disciplined in my fitness, you know what I mean? And in my diet. Pastor Brian's been killing it with his diet. I'm trying to take a page out of his book, but we don't feel like it always, but it's a sacrifice. And we're coming into a season of, Easter season, and the Lord sacrificed everything for me, for you. And what can I give back to him? Yeah.
You got any? Drill him.
Well,
drill him.
Yeah, the thought that I had, LeBron, is because sometimes I wish people could just kind of see us sitting down, on a practical level. It's on a Tuesday most weeks that we sit down and we talk about the worship services that are to come, and we talk about the music that we're going to sing, the hymns, the contemporary songs, every other element. You're involved in discussing as well, whether it's something liturgical that we're going to do or a sacrament. you talked about that heart posture that people are to have when they come to worship, but what would you want people to know about how we plan and why we plan, and kind of what we want them to get out of the Sunday morning experience?
Well, one, I want to say we have a phenomenal leader in Pastor Brian, who prayerfully,
oh shucks,
stop it, tell me again, who prayerfully, prays into, the direction and where we want to go and what we want to teach on and what our body needs to receive. So when we talk about it, we prayerfully consider everything. And so a lot of times we shape our services around what is the message that's going to be brought to God's people. And so when we sit down and we plan and we prepare, we prayerfully consider like what songs and musically will be able to be the glue to the message of what's going to be shared. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes we don't have the full picture, and which is when we lean on the Holy Spirit to lead, guide, and direct us what we want to do. We have a unique opportunity here, I believe. We have people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and so I have a heart, and we have a heart that we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to bring everybody with us, and people can have an opportunity to worship and feel like they can connect. And so we're in a beautiful place. We're learning, we're growing. And it all comes back to, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about, it's what the Lord wants to do and what the Lord wants to say. And so when we come into our meetings, we all have different backgrounds, but we lay our preferences aside. We put them to the side and say, what does the Lord want to say? What does he want to do? What song is going to be the song of the Lord for this particular Sunday? And so it's something we put on the altar every week, and we believe that the Lord's going to bless it and breathe on it.
You said something in your comments there that it's interesting to me. We're celebrating, or just have celebrated, the third birthday of the church. How far our worship has come, and even over the last year since you've been here. It's changed a lot in a lot of good ways. I see one thing I would say is I see our people growing in worship. I see people embracing music maybe that they haven't embraced before. And I see us growing in our ability to focus as a people on the Lord in worship. And what that does is it opens the door for the Lord to move.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful.
I agree. No. I so agree, because whenever you're able to, come into a place, and you never know what's gonna hit. Sometimes, like I'm sure as a pastors, when you're speaking a message, you're like, man, did that really, did I say the right thing? Did I obey the Lord? Did I hear him right? And then you have that testimony to come out, listen, what you said right here really blessed me. You don't know what I was going through. Those moments, not that we need the validation, because I believe we're just called to be obedient. The Lord said it, we do what he said. But, to see our congregation grow and be like, man, this song right here, I didn't know it, but I connected with this. That's like, what? Thank you, Lord, that you're speaking and you're catching all generations, and you're be able to bring people together who are focused on you, because you're the main thing. You're the reason why we're here. And when we have that type of heart posture, I believe then the Lord can move and do what he wants to do in our services.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard. It's hard for all of us, but it's always, unique to remember that worship, more than almost anything in the church, is not about our preferences. It is about worship.
Yeah.
It's about worshiping God and finding ways in which we actually honor him with our hands, with our mouth, with how we sing, with what we say. And it's hard to get past our own preferences to lean into what are you doing? One of the phrases I've used a lot is that, the worship experience is about ministering to the heart of the Lord, not ministering to my heart.
Yeah.
And often we go into worship to get ministered to, when worship is actually about ministering to the Lord, ministering to him.
Yeah.
Even in our core values, we have it said, that worship is sacrificial. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's what we can give and what we can offer. And it's not even just about like singing songs. It's sacrifice to serve on a volunteer team. It's to be, on the welcome desk or a greeter or whatever. That's the sacrifice of getting up early. You know what I mean? And, getting your family. If you got kids, you're like, gotta get up extra early. You know what I mean? You're preparing breakfast. You know what I mean? It's like all these things. It's the sacrifice to get to the house. But I believe that the Lord will honor the sacrifice to be among God's people and to be able to, bring a sacrifice of worship. And so I love it. I'm grateful to be here at the river for sure.
I want to say something that deserves being said, that I appreciate not only what you do, but I appreciate the way you do it. And not only, first of all, your ability and your skill, but secondly, you do everything that you do with excellence. And that's evident. I mean, I just see that over and over again. But I tell you what I really appreciate, maybe even above all of that, LeBron, is just your heart for the Lord and the way you uplift other people, not just during a worship service, but all throughout the week and what you do. You know, a lot of people, I get tickled at this. I wish they could be here. We get here really early on Sunday morning. I walk in, you know, around 7:30 or so, and LeBron's already here. He's been here, and LeBron's in there worshiping. I mean, there is music going, and he's singing, and we come in and we have our little praise time together. And but I just appreciate the way that no matter what you do, you're always lifting other people up, and I really appreciate that and value that.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.
I can take you or leave you, but I'm really glad he's
I wish we could just cut it when we want to. No, thank you, Pastor. I mean, it really is an honor and a privilege, and I think that's just my prayer too, is to always be able to serve like that. And you know, I know that we can't do this thing alone. You know what I mean? And you know, it takes all of us to be able to fulfill the Great Commission to go into all the world. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part of us. And I want to be a team player. You know what I mean? And so I guess Noah's okay sometimes.
Every once in a while, I have a closing one. If you could only have one song that you could sing and play as a worship song forever,
there's no way.
One song.
One.
What would it be?
I don't know that answer, but what I will say, there is one song that is a section of a song that's my all-time favorite worship songs, and it's the bridge that says, "I'll never know how much it costs to see my sins upon the cross." It's that when I was young and I heard it, and just really coming to the realization of what the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross meant for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and how much I need Him. When I heard that bridge, "I'll never know how much it costs to see my sins upon the cross," that's probably one of my all-time favorite worship bridges.
Yeah, okay. Well, that works then.
Now to play it forever, I don't know, man.
Play
That's
it
hard. Yeah, that's hard.
Well, if you want to donate into LeBron's ministry, you can come find him.
I receive it, Lord.
He's there. I think worship's important, and I think it's good that our community. And I think, any community, church community that may be listening to this, to know the value of planning and thinking about worship. How you do what you do, why you do what you do. It's important. You can't just show up and do it.
Preach, Pastor.
You can't,
Preach.
Can't just show up and do it. It does. It does. It's like you said, David didn't suck at playing the harp. If he did, he wouldn't have been in the room.
He was skilled.
And you're an okay piano player, and I think you're getting there.
Just ignore all my bad notes, because there's some days I'll be in like the wrong key. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, why are my veins popping out of my forehead when I'm singing this song? It's too high.
Well, anyway, thank you for being here.
No,
thank you for listening or watching, whichever you're doing, and we hope that you understand the value of what worship means, not just to our community, but to us as individuals. We all have somewhat worship in our background, and so it means a lot to us, and we hope that it means a lot to you. And so we'll see you next week on the Ripple Effect podcast. See you then.